transitioned 4 years ago. So speak to that later that is, 8 to 10 years behind you in
Yeah.
their journey. What would you say to them?
I think a couple of things. Number one, I think it's really important for a pastor to know himself.
Mm,
And I think a lot of pastors really don't have a strong sense of self-awareness. People in general are so busy, especially leaders. You're pushing the organization forward, and you don't really have a lot of time for self-care and self-reflection. And
mm,
I'm talking about more than just an annual retreat or getting away in the wilderness for a day or two. I'm talking about really knowing yourself. And I think when it comes time to make a transition like that, that lack of self awareness is what causes people to make wrong choices, wrong decisions, and have wrong attitudes as they go into it. And I think another thing, Will, that is just so very important, and this is perhaps the most important thing that I would say. I think that as a believer in Jesus Christ, a follower of Jesus Christ, for me to have all of my self identity wrapped up in being a pastor is a huge mistake.
mm,
That's not my identity. That's my role. That
yeah,
was a title that was conferred upon me by a local congregation in accordance with gifting and calling that God had upon my life. But uh, that sense of being a pastor is not. It's not a birthright. And the problem is when you've done this a long time. I was a pastor for 50 years. And you come to the end of that journey and realize it was a strange thing. You had prepped us and you had taken us through this process. And 1/20th of August, 2017 was the day that I was going to pass the baton to this amazing young man that took my place. And I left the platform that day and went home. And I'm like, so who am I now? And the strangest thing happened. I woke up the next day and I discovered that I was the same person that I
same
was the
guy.
day before. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly the same guy, except that I didn't have the title of senior pastor anymore or lead pastor, or
yeah,
whatever you want to call me. And I realized that that was not my identity. That was my job. That was my role. That was my responsibility. But it was not who I am. And I
yeah.
think when a pastor puts all of his eggs in that one basket of I am a pastor, uh, that's asking for trouble.
Yeah, it's one of the questions that, I mean, I shared this in the book. One of the questions that I asked another mentor of mine, hey Steve, what does it mean for you to be a pastor when you're no longer the pastor? And it's fundamentally core. A lot of the work that I did with Graceway was around just organizational self-awareness.
Right.
I mean, my gosh, the detail. We'll have to tell the story of changing your bylaws at a different time, and just even
Yeah.
the discovery of some of the pitfalls in your own bylaws, right? I mean, there was
Yeah.
that, but that was organizational, tactical kind of stuff. But at
Right.
the same time, what's going on in your soul is a lot of, I mean, just PTSD from your time in Latin America. I mean, the stories there, Jeff, are just incredible, and you know you know those things happening in your soul at the same time, like all that's coming out of you at the same time you're getting ready to transition a church you've been a pastor of for 3 decades,